Welcome back, armchair generals and railway enthusiasts. This is Gamer1745 here with the new IKB. Say hi, IKB.
Hello, everyone.
And we're going to be playing Railway Empire and talking about, I'm sure, society, industry, and the changes and developments goes through. We end up doing that a lot, so we're going to probably do more of that. Hope you enjoy this. Of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and, of course, give it a like. Post questions down below for either him or I or both of us. We will try to answer them either briefly in the comment section or in future episodes. So, okay, we're going to let the clock run. For everyone, our current task is to get London to 100,000. The next thing on the task list here is, or after Tweed, which we're going to get in from other manufacturings, but raw materials would be lumber, wood. This game terms. Now, let's see, what would be the best path here? I like using these with the control, but I don't think we can fit that in. So let's just go with maybe a train station.
Spin it round and attach onto the line heading to the warehouse immediately south.
Yeah, see, I want to try to, if we can get it low enough level there so that it won't be elevation wise, because if we build it up here, we're going to be building high. So
yeah.
if we build it out here like that. Okay, so if we put that there, and then if we connect this end here,
And that end there.
right, and then we need to do the crossing points. Okay, so don't go there unless it's clear.
Don't go there unless it's clear.
Okay, that could become a traffic jam, so let's remove this one just because it may jam it up. I'd rather have them waiting back here. Okay, that works moderately well. Okay, so there we go. Now, does any place else in the region want lumber particularly? No, nobody's that big yet. We're more building that for future developments. Well, they're getting there. So Northampton is getting there. So if we were to add lumber here, might as well try to make a profit out of things. Oh, lumber there, just wood, but yeah.
What else does Northampton want? Do they want more beef?
They might. And we can see about hooking that in there, but let's see what we can do here. No, that doesn't work. Let's try it from this one first. There we go.
There we go.
Right, now here. Crossing points first, because this is just a
As we gradually make England look more and more like it eventually ended up with huge masses of railway lines everywhere.
Yes. Which can be a bit unsightly.
In real life, the railways don't look quite so big compared to the the rest of the country.
You're right, and that is one of my biggest complaints about the whole system here, as it were. I would prefer not necessarily adding any more stations or cities or towns or whatever or resources out here, but just increase the scale would be nice. Okay, so they bring up lumber here. Let's move them from
might have to upgrade Northampton Station then.
Yeah, so we might. Well, they're not too. Let's see. They're track. Oh, they're 42% track utilization. The warehouse. Well, we can afford it. We're not going to pay the black man.
And does the warehouse in Northampton have a maintenance shed?
No, but we have to pay for those. We don't have the free ones, so I'm targeting a few places for sure. But that may be the one. Or do we put it here? Because I wanted to do London's just because everything is coming to London, and that's our big goal.
Because it would make more sense to have maintenance sheds at the warehouses where the raw material trains are coming in, rather than having to build them at all the
each stations. Yeah. Okay, so we'll put one there. Okay, well, let's see.
Because it looks like we could in Northampton.
We could put a new industry in there. Do we want to? And if we want to, what would we want to put in there? We have a fair amount of meat industry. Well, meat industry is already there, so we don't want to do that. We could do cider making. We got cider up here in Manchester already, and out in Norwich.
Always put in a sawmill. Gives it something to use the wood for in the meantime. Until London gets big enough to start wanting it.
Yeah, that would probably be. Let's take a look here before we do that at London. Just wondering. Okay, 60,000 citizens who want it, and we want to, of course, go through it. I just wanted to check and see, because I think in least some of the versions, tools need cut wood to be made. So yeah, I didn't know if it was going to be a commodity that was something that they're going to buy. Okay, so that will now
the great sawmill of Northampton.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a train that's low on supplies somewhere. That might be.
Yeah, okay. Low speed. Let's see its path. Okay, it's just going between these two stations, but probably we should do that. Let's put it sort of in the middle of the run.
That's one thing that I think they need to add is have stopping at the station refill your water and such.
Well, with the scale of this game, then you'd almost never need supply towers.
Yeah, if they increase the scale though, it would be worth.
Yeah, I really wish they would. They have terminated all development to the best of what they stated of the game. It is now complete, which I'm disappointed in. I don't know if they're working on Railway Empire 2 or anything like that, but they definitely have stated they've terminated this. So I think this has a lot of potential.
Definitely has a lot of potential, and you could I've often heard you mention you'd like the idea of a chance to play building railways in British India.
Yes, that would be good. More areas would be nice. more some more depth to the scale. Okay, London's growing, so that's good news. Okay, we're at 40,000. Okay, let's pause this here. We could, and we probably should pick the next industry here.
Okay.
London. What is London industrially known for? Do you have a clue? I don't.
Oof. I mean, industrially known for basically everything at most points. I mean, do we have anything that could look like shipbuilding in any way?
Preservers. Well, steel would be, but that wouldn't be so much London.
No, that'd be more South Wales or up north. And I've put in a paper mill, so the all the bankers of businessmen have got something to write all their notes on.
Right. Okay. The other thing that's because we have fairly close lumber. That is a good option. The other option I'm interested in seeing is a bakery here that I guess it's fish pies. Is that what this is supposed to be making here?
I guess so. It looks like fish pie.
Is fish pie a thing?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm used to meat pies, but not fish pies.
Fish pie is nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I like fish pie.
Okay, so we have fish up here. We have wheat up here.
Just a little further up, yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look at the what it'll need first. Okay. Well, they're very close to each other, 75 and 80,000. So that hardly matters. I don't know. I sort of like the idea of fish pies for London.
I would also say yes, fish pie. I suppose around London this time probably be eel pie.
Eel pie, yeah. Okay, let's stick that over here. So now we have that. Now that we will then. Okay, what is our current stock of both wheat and fish? Okay, so we're currently maxed out on fish and very full on meat, so we don't need to add trains for that, though it will be a while before they need it. Now, is anybody else out here at 80,000? Some of our northern cities that we've been working at, like Manchester. No, but we want to see. Okay, they're at 120. So we already have that Manchester to London train here. So let's see if we can find that. Manchester to London. It's actually currently losing us money. But in London, we're going to prioritize fish pies going north to Manchester where they'll need it or can use it already. And Leeds, they also have a demand for it now. Let's look here. Leeds south this way through Nottingham, through Northampton, to Oxford, so they can do that. So let's throw on another train coming out of here up to Leeds.
Up to Leeds.
Okay. That's not a bad flow through of Railway London's going to prioritize. But it is eel pie. When I hold it over.
It is eel pie, yes.
Yes, okay, eel pie. And so we'll have that. Yeah, we
made
can
from eels pulled fresh out of the mud of the Thames.
Right. Oh, they don't like each other. No, they don't like each other. We'll not fire him, but we'll move him off that train.
There's a London grows again.
Okay, so we've already set up a tweed train coming in, so let's make sure Manchester is okay. They got a 17 surplus of tweed. So we've got tweed. They could maybe use some more wool. So with our upping of.
I think Fraser Estate looks like our wool supply.
Yeah, that should do it. Into there.
Do we want to make sure that the sheep farm is actually able to keep up?
Right. Okay, that is. We're at level 3. I think. Well, what would be the cost to increase it? Yeah, we can afford that. We'll increase the.
Encourage the sheep to breed. We need more of them.
Yep. More sheep.
Nope, Birmingham has grown.
Okay, now Birmingham, let's pause it. Birmingham has grown. We will be, as we talked about, needing paper.
I suppose we could put a paper mill in Birmingham then.
Yeah, but I'm looking how to get lumber there efficiently if we want to try that.
There's the nearest.
Because it's down here, but you can see Hamilton Forest. Doesn't, well.
What we need is a connection between the freight line to head over to Birmingham. So you, like maybe above warehouse 10. If you put in a
here.
Right here.
Yeah, here. This may do with this. See if we can do this well enough. Okay, not maybe the most efficient path.
Because speaking of eels, when they were digging the first tunnel under the Thames,
right,
the workers, because they were basically pushing through the muck and sludge that makes up the bed of the River Thames, the workers who were actually digging kept on pulling out live eels, which was a bit of an uncomfortable reminder of just how close they were to the river above them.
Yeah, I could imagine that being an issue.
Yes, it did. It did end up flooding twice.
Okay.
The tunnel under the Thames, and of course, you can guess who was responsible for building this tunnel under the Thames. A certain Mr. Brunel.
Ah, Brunel, right.
It started off being his father, Mark Brunel, who then, because said tunnel under the Thames was not the healthiest of places to be during construction, he got a bit ill, so he basically turned the job over to his son, Isambard, and said, "Here, you have a go." So they set up the tunneling shield, which is basically can be considered the great grandfather of the modern tunnel boring machine, essentially.
Right.
And it was essentially had I suppose the best way would be to describe it as having a series of sort of work cells, you could say, that had sort of removable boards up front, and then they had screw jacks at the back that could push off the brick lining of the tunnel they'd already built. And you'd have a man digging in each of these little cells, and he'd take down the top board, hook out the mud in front for about a foot or so, put that board back, take out the next one immediately below, and hook out that foot of mud there until he gets to the bottom. And then once they've all hooked out their foot or so of mud, they'd start cranking on the screw jacks again and push the shield forward to fill up that gap. And the shield had like a bit of roof at the top that would hold the muck up for a little while. So they screwed it forward, and they would once they got it forward, they'd build the brick arch to support the rest of the tunnel. And that was how they managed to dig a tunnel through the sloppy muck under the Thames. And it did end up flooding twice.
Right.
And rather unfortunately, Mr. Brunel ended up was involved in both floods. The first time round, he ends up rescuing a few of the workers, and the second time round he ends up almost drowning.
Did they lose many people at that, or?
They lost a few, and it does rather set the theme for Mr. Brunel's engineering life, because he does have a bit of a habit of getting himself into situations that probably should have killed him, but just by luck don't.
Right.
And it's after the first flood, they have to work out how to plug the hole in the top.
Mm-hmm.
So what they end up doing is getting Hessian sacks that they fill with clay, and then poking basically long garden bamboo canes through them. So one through left to right, one through front to back, one through top to bottom. And then they basically spend several weeks sat on a barge floating over the top of the hole, chucking hundreds of these over the side to plug the hole.
Okay.
And because they've got the sticks going through, they all interlock together. And the clay sort of all sucks down.
Right.
And seals it up. And then they're then able to pump it out and get the shield and everything up and working again.
Okay.
So that's how they manage.
So these are brick-lined tunnels.
These are brick-lined, yes. So they have, traveling along behind the shield, you have the wooden frame for the arch that you then have to build the bricks around.
Right. And then yeah, okay. So I'm trying to just this was in the 1840s?
This was in the give me a sec.
Not that you have to know, I was just wondering.
And this starts in 1825. They start building it, and they don't actually finish until 1843. Because after the second flood, it gets put on hold for a bit because they don't have a huge amount of money.
Right.
And then a little while later, they finally get round to finishing it off.
Right. Yeah.
And it is now this tunnel is now part of the London Underground network.
Have they replaced the lining on the tunnel, or is it?
It's still got the original brick lining.
Okay.
They just
having ridden on that, I'm now questioning whether I should ride on that ever again.
Yeah, so it's got the It's rather fortunate that it was there for the sort of starting days of the London Underground, because once it had been built, once the tunnel had first been built, there were sort of ideas to try and turn it into a proper underground street, so to say, with shops and things.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it rather being sort of below ground and out of sight, it rather quickly started to attract some of the less reputable elements of society.
I can imagine that, especially in London, and we all know the term Dickensian, so that that definitely
ladies of the night and such things.
Oh yeah.
So it ends up being none too popular with the folks of our higher class, and so it very quick. So when it comes time to build the London Underground, they sort of look there, and there's this tunnel that's not really seems only to be attracting problems, and so they decide, let's use this because it's in the right place.
Yeah.
Well, so that's how the London Underground eventually and that's how the London Underground gets south of the Thames.
Right. Because it's still to this day, London is least I mean, I know there's a lot of people and whatnot south of the Thames in London, but as a tourist there, the only thing that I really remember, and I remember sort of having difficulty getting to it, was the Imperial War Museum, which is south of the Thames.
Yeah, the Imperial War Museum, I've been there many years ago, and it's a little bit, it's not centrally located. It's a little bit far from everything else.
Yeah, that was sort of it. And I was sort of a student without a lot of extra money, so I didn't want to take taxis or anything like that. So after getting off the underground, I remember walking for a fair amount of distance to get there. So yeah, that where everything else, as I remember my multiple trips being in London, it's been years now, but have all been, everything has been north of the Thames that has attracted my. There's not always touristy things, but just whatever seems to be always north. Okay, we need to get vegetables to London. Now we have vegetables over here in Little John Farm. I guess we could connect that up to this warehouse, run it all the way down through to there. That would probably work. Okay.
Probably work, but that would put a lot of extra traffic onto that route already that we're already using for a lot of other things.
Yeah, I hear you say that, but if you look at it here, there doesn't look to be, because if we put it on the sort of this the freight track here, there doesn't seem to be a lot of traffic.
So
I'm keeping it off of keeping it off of the
the
city
main
to
line,
city.
yes.
Yeah, that's
connect Little John Farm up to Warehouse 9 then.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
That's a good way of thinking, I think, yes. Oof. It's a bit steep.
Yeah, let's see if we can. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we get it to 9 degrees by going over.
Yeah, that seems a bit more reasonable.
Still worrying about the tractive power of our current engines quite a bit.
Yes.
I don't know why the game instinctively wants to put it under, because it seems to be steeper in most cases. Let's put some extra signals. Okay. Now, down here in London, the warehouse, we need to add vegetables to here.
Potatoes.
A staple of British diet, for sure.
Can't have fish and chips without chips, and chips means potatoes.
Yep. Okay, so that's a bit longer than we might like, but it does get there.
It does get there.
Yeah, not too much congestion.
I mean, suppose theoretically you could, from Warehouse 9, cut south of Northampton and maybe cut off the corner a bit.
Yeah, but it's... I guess... wait, yeah, we can go to Banks Fattening here. That would be the way to go. The beef place. Connect it to there. Yeah, thank you. That's the way to go here. Let's see. North or south? Yeah, let's see if we can just to go over.
Maybe raise that bit between the two bridges.
That doesn't seem to help much. Yeah. Let's see, because I think, well, let's try. Yeah, that does. Okay, if we get a little bit higher, there we go, 8. 8% grade max, 6% back here. I think we can up this just by, let's try doing this by 1%. Yeah, okay, there's 2 and 4, so that's less of a grade. We'll come over there, very long viaduct, come into Banks Fattening, and then come down through this warehouse here, which we may want to expand just so it can take the traffic through it and into London. Okay, that works.
We're definitely going to need to look at putting in yes, water towers and make sure we've got enough maintenance facilities.
Right. Okay. Well, so let's go back to setting up our railway from here
all the way down to London.
Yeah, that's a much better.
It's a much quicker looking route.
Yeah, and less congested, I'm sure, as well. Okay. There we go. I like that. No, we're not buying other farms and things yet. Okay, Oxford. Now, Oxford, I'd rather spend my money on guiding the industries.
Oh, Oxford. We've got a sawmill just a little bit to the north, haven't we?
Yeah, and we could put in wheat and the sawmill, I guess, oak and wood to get distilleries there.
Or what do you need to make paper? Just regular wood.
Okay, well, we're paper mills, but we could do publishing there.
Yeah, the question is then where would we get the paper from?
Well, we have the paper mill just north at Birmingham.
Yep. Well, I suppose we put in Oxford, publishing in Oxford, we could then have Oxford publishing for the university books. So
right, yeah, okay, we'll do that. There we go, and then that will work. That will tie in, I think.
I mean, all of those textbooks about the Roman Empire and the ancient Greeks and stuff aren't going to print themselves.
No, they're going to need, read Virgil and the Iliad and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yes.
Now,
do we want to add a cut across so that we don't have to go all the way up the right hand side of Northampton to get to the
yeah, I'm going to let that stand just because trying to build. If you make too many intersections, they start to jam up on things. So I think just letting it flow this way is probably better.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have then come together, then split apart, it just creates more and more waiting points for the tracks to clear.
Yeah, now we've got another one there saying bad conditions, so shall we see where that one's...
Right, okay. Where is that going? Okay, it's coming to London, and it's just a long route.
Do you want to maybe see about having one at the start? If it's a
wait a minute, dude. We have this going right? Yeah.
Looks like it's going from the Peterborough warehouse all the way
across. He's going all the way through here. Oh, that's why.
That's a long way to go for the thing. Maybe we need to think about building a slightly more direct route across there.
But we can at least start by putting in a maintenance shed up here.
Yeah, because that is a long way to go when you could sort of just cut across up to Cambridge and then through.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should see first about connecting Cambridge and Peterborough in a more direct or in a way. So let's do that first. See about coming out here. Don't quite want to go too far out into the fens, but we want to connect. Okay.
The fens are very, very wet.
Yeah, I don't think they're quite penalizing us for that. Here.
The fens very wet, very nice if you want to go and mess about on boats.
Maybe that's what attracted the Saxons. That was sort of, I think, some of the early landing areas for the Saxons. Okay, so this is, we're not having a lot of traffic, but this is what I'm sort of talking about, is you could get a lot of these.
Yeah, they do start
not flowing efficiently.
That'd be another reason to increase the sort of map sizes and keep the number of towns and industries the same. Give you more space to put in.
Yeah, I would really like that without changing, the overall structure and tone of the game. Not trying to make it all too technical or something. Okay. Now,
do we need a don't go if it's not clear on the other?
Well, so this is the problem here, is traffic jam. So this is a future traffic jam here. It may not be a critical thing, but if we get rid of that, now we have a, okay, there. Fit that in. That might be a full, depending on how long the train length. Full train length's there, and this is the stop back here.
Right.
Better, back here for here, meaning all this needs to be clear for it to release the train. So we don't get something stuck here waiting and keeping the other thing from flowing by.
Yeah.
Not that there's a lot of traffic right now there, but we just don't need that delay.
So shall we see about putting in a Peterborough to Cambridge service?
Yeah, okay, there's a supply tower. We're just going to add a couple more signals. Make sure it's relatively well. There we go. Okay, so Cambridge to Peterborough. And a Peterborough to Cambridge. We're trying to go in both directions. Well, let's add an engineer to here and doctor.
Okay, it looks like someone in Cambridge really likes their meat.
Yep. Been a lot down there. They're just probably meat starved. This is ham, but yeah. Breakfast ham.
Or ham to put in ham sandwiches that you can stack on while you're studying.
Yep. With that, I don't know that we have one. So let's put in a connection from Peterborough to this London station here. To increase the flow without hopefully adding more traffic jams to the other.
Without completely overloading our
main line into London here.
Yes.
Okay, just keep everything flowing. Okay, there are no suitable. This is okay. We are full up on our wheat needs, I guess.
We could always make the fish pie bakery bigger, the eel pie place.
Well, right now I think it's more we're making enough. I think you're just gonna flow a little bit without having freight. Okay, yes, we can do the fire or spark arrestor now.
Spark arrestor, which is mostly an American thing, because
Britain doesn't.
In America, a lot of locomotives burned wood that gave off an awful lot of sparks.
Yeah, wood would be a serious element to that, I'm sure. But also, America is a drier place.
Yes, it is in some places.
Yeah. And so the sparks would be much more likely to. Yeah, okay, London to Leeds. Yeah, London has a.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll take upholstery. Yeah,
yep.
We'll take upholstery. There we go.
Where's Leeds?
Up here. Okay, this is probably. It's coming through here. Yeah, they could use a maintenance, so that way, long way, both have maintenance now. All right, let's see how we're doing population-wise in London. Okay, we have to 1840. We are right now at almost 60,000.
Almost 60,000.
And then we'll start needing our.
We'll start needing cut wood and.
Yeah, so let's make sure, because we put in the railways, but we didn't put in the train actually moving the just the firewood, if you will, for London. So we'll get that coming in here. Just we didn't need it back at the time. There we go. And the other thing we needed was milk. We have milk up here, but what we don't have is a, well, let's just expand this station now. We can afford it at this time. Let's put on another station up here. Train station for the milk. Create a milk train going through here. That looks like maybe pretty good. Let's see if we come off.
And of course, milk being one of those things that goes off very quickly was something that people were naturally very keen to try and transport by rail, because it meant you could get it to market when it was still fresh.
Right. What did I? Oh, ice boxes. I'm going to. This is just. I'm sure you know what an ice box is, but I'm going to ask. Do you know what an ice box is?
A box that you have ice in to keep other things cold.
Right. It's what people did before refrigerators.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not old enough to actually really experience ice boxes, but I know my parents were of an age when at least my dad when he was young to know, and it's around. So ice boxes were still very common around World War II, and even getting much less common into the 1950s, but at least in major urban centers were starting to go away heavily, but they were still around and still very much a thing. Now, I was reading up about them because as I'm sure like you are, IKB, periodically I just research things because I'm interested in it. So just sort of researching the Old West stuff. And I was wondering, ice boxes, when did they start? And they started in America. And it was some guy, and because what you were talking about, the milk made me think of it. I just was reading about it earlier this week. Was who developed it. He was a rural farmer outside of, I don't know, Chicago, St. Louis, some sort of Midwest major American city, or well, maybe not major American city, but a city out there. And he wanted to get his butter to market. And so instead of where all of his competitors would bring their butter be soft and in tubs, by creating, in essence, an ice box for his wagon, that he was able to bring in butter in I don't think they were quite the rectangle form that we might see better still in today, but it was in a hard refrigerated form as opposed to soft and whatever. So he was selling a lot more of his butter because of that as a marketing strategy, sort of in a hard cake, if you will.
Yeah.
And so that, because we're all used to refrigerated butter nowadays, but that was sort of the starting of the ice box. And of course, he ended up making a lot more money making ice boxes and whatnot than that. And for those of you who don't understand, what it is sort of a highly insulated for the time, often with boxes maybe on the outside covered in wood, just sort of structurally, but they would have either like tin or zinc metal sort of interiors lining, but in between them they would put like possibly packed in sawdust, or I forget some of the other things that they would do to try, in between the layers that might be a couple inches thick to try to, for insulation. And then you would put the ice sort of more at the top. Some were sort of very vertical, some were sort of square, but you put the ice at the top, and then you would have 2 or 3 other doors on it that would have sort of compartments that the air would circulate in. So you would just open up the door that you would sort of know that was behind what you wanted to get, because you didn't want all the warm air cold air to flow out, warm air to come in. And so the ice would slowly melt. Some had drain systems in them. Some just had a pan at the bottom to catch the ice as it melted, through the water. But so they'll come in and keep what you want to the coldest, you would put right below the ice. But the way the water wouldn't flow over your stuff, it would drain out through like a tube or whatever. And obviously the drain is a little bit of a leakage, cold leakage situation there, but sort of need to do that. And that would sort of work. And so you'd have icemen that would come around and deliver ice to your house. And they often come right into your house and put it right into the ice box, however often, every couple of days or whatever. So that was a major development. And that's how people used to live. You youngsters out there, I mean.
And I can remember going camping, and this must be, a good, 20 to, between 20 and 15 years ago. We still had a more modern equivalent as an ice box with sort of more, not actual ice in it, but sort of 3, ice blocks that were sort of a self-contained bit of plastic around it was filled with water and then sealed, that you put in a freezer overnight to freeze it, and then you put those in the ice box when you were going camping to keep your milk cold and such.
Oh yeah, well, saying that, well, what it would be termed in the U.S. that, and is still very common, is just an ice chest. Now you can buy still at a lot of grocery stores or similar sort of places. Maybe it's a little less common in some areas. Big sort of, I'll use the American measurement, 1 foot by 1 foot ice blocks, because they'll melt slower than a bunch of just ice cubes, a bag of ice cubes put in there. And that's still very common, an ice chest for, people, of course, a lot of people, and that it was in a separate compartment compared to the rest of the chest, so that as it melted, water wouldn't run in, as opposed to just your styrofoam ice chest that you're just pouring in ice and then putting your soda cans in or whatever. Yes, I'm going to ignore the London to Birmingham. Let's see. Can we do an express line?
I'm assuming you could. You might want to put a bypass around Oxford.
Oxford is with the switching station, so that's going to go pretty fast. What I think we need to do here is let's find one of these guys who are fast and then get him off of. He's no longer. So we have, I think, and let's see if we can find
Oxford to Birmingham.
We'll unassign that person so that we now have. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go from Oxford to Birmingham. Oh no, it's am I saying Oxford? It's
London to Birmingham.
London to Birmingham. But we're going to no yield pies, no commodities whatsoever. Let's max out the train cars at 4. So that way it will move fast. Gone bull, and we'll put 2. Oh, we maybe did the wrong person. Let's see if this person and this person are compatible. No. Let's do that. Okay. So now we have 2 speedy train personnels on it, and smaller cars. Maybe we want to reduce the number of cars a bit more. Car. The max cars on both sides at 5. That or 4. That's good. I didn't get London down. Okay, so now that'll be in future just 4 cars, no heavy freight, just mail and passengers. Hopefully that will get the express abilities.
Hopefully it will. Now as of course at this time period and earlier, if you were rich and you had a big country estate, because of course you did, because you were rich, then you had what was called an ice house.
Ah, yes.
So you had a, best way to describe it would be like almost like a bunker, essentially, in terms of construction. So underground, normally covered with quite a thick layer of earth as insulation, and during the winter, when the ice on your great big ornamental lake froze, because of course you had a great big ornamental lake because you were rich, you would send the gardeners and the groundskeeping staff out with saws to cut the ice into blocks, haul it off to the ice house and stack it up. And because the ice house was under a nice thick layer of earth to keep it insulated, it would keep ice all year round even.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to end the episode here. Come back next time for more historical chatter while we continue to playing Railway Empire. Thanks so much, everyone. See you next time.